Hi everyone, my name is Matt, also known as UKAstroNut, and in this video I'm going to start another series which is all going to be about the atomic world. The atomic world is all about atoms and chemicals and elements and particles. Things that, especially in the news recently with all the Higgs boson and the CERN, the big particle collider, these things are sort of big in the news at the moment, and they're really fundamental to everything. I mean, everything is made of atoms and particles and everything. So this is a really fundamental part of physics, and it's really interesting actually when you go into more detail about it, and you really try to understand and learn how everything is built and how everything works. So I'm going to do this series, and I'm going to go talk to you about all the different particles, what the atom is like, how they bond together to form different chemicals and elements. So, for oxygen and hydrogen, they're collections of particles and how they all work together. But anyway, in this video, I'm going to give you just a brief introduction to the atomic world. As usual, I have my handy whiteboard here. So this is a sort of a brief slide, I suppose, of everything you need to know about atoms. This kind of summarises the really basic idea of everything about atoms and particles. So first things first, what kind of size are atoms? I mean, you probably know that atoms and particles are very small. The typical atom is around 10 to the minus 10 meters. So what this basically means is do 1 with 10 zeros like this, and that's about the same. That's 10 to the minus 10 meters. So you can see it's very small when you consider that a human hair is much bigger than this, because a human hair is made of atoms itself. So this is a really small scale we're talking about here. So there's this overall idea of having an atom, which is a single thing, a single object. But actually, the atom itself is, say an atom of oxygen, for example, is made up of things even smaller than that you can just about start to look at. And here we have, this is what an atom actually looks like. So in the centre we have a collection of protons and neutrons. So these are subatomic particles. These are particles that are even smaller, and they bond together to form a sort of a core of an atom. Kind of like, if you imagine what a solar system is like, you imagine that protons and neutrons are kind of like our sun. They're right at the centre. Then, around the outside, you have electrons, which spin and go all the way around the atom. Now these are, in our solar system idea, these are kind of like the planets. They orbit around this central part. So the core here, the nucleus, which is made of protons and neutrons, is positively charged, and the electrons around the outside are negatively charged. And they're sort of all held together by different forces. But within this, these individual particles are then made up of even more particles. So these are made up of things called quarks and leptons. Sorry. So these things here, for example, what a proton might look like, and they'd be made up of 3 quarks. So there are different types of quarks, and protons and neutrons are made up of these. So you have this idea of one atom. An atom is made up of lots of particles, and those particles are made up of lots of particles. And then these particles, we don't know. They are probably made up of other things as well. This is kind of what the Higgs boson is. The Higgs boson is a particle that gives all other particles mass in a way. And so it's possible that these particles are made up of other things, and that these are the most fundamental thing we have, and something has to be giving these mass. But we're not quite sure. And there's a lot of things, but it can keep going deeper and deeper. So for example, here, if we look at oxygen, and we go back to this idea that a single oxygen atom here is made up of 8 protons, 8 neutrons, and 8 electrons. And hydrogen is made up of 1 proton and 1 electron. So all these little particles are inside every single atom of oxygen. And there are trillions and trillions of particles of oxygen, probably that you breathe in every single day. So there's a significant number of particles out there. Now down here, I have just a quick table here. And this is a table of all the different quarks and leptons and other things as well. So these things in the top 2 rows here, and these 3, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, these are all quarks. So these are things that make up like neutrons and protons. Down here, these 3, we have, this is an electron here, and there are 2 other things that are kind of like an electron, which I'll do another video and I'll go into more detail. These three things are called neutrinos. These are even more particles. These things are called force carriers. So they're basically these particles are particles that kind of keep all the nucleus together, so to speak. Anyway, there's a lot to take in here, but this is just a brief overview of everything to do with atoms. So what do you need to know? You need to know the atom is very, very small, and all these particles in general are very, very tiny. The atom is made up of even smaller particles, and those particles even made up of smaller particles, and those particles, we don't know, they may even be made up of even smaller ones. And all you've got to know is there are so many different types of particles, and they can make so many different combinations of other particles. The list of particles goes on, and there's just so many to go through. But I'll try and make it nice and easy, and I'll go through the different ones, and I'll tell you what they all are, and what makes them very interesting and fascinating. So, thank you very much for watching. I hope I didn't scare you too much, but this is just a brief overview, and I'll go into more detail, but I'll keep it really nice, easy level, so you can understand everything that's going on. I hope you enjoy. Check out the rest of my videos, subscribe, like, leave comments, feedback, everything like that. Thank you very, very much for watching. See you soon.